All right, y'all. I'm gonna start doing some different things that are live on the channel. Turn this up a little bit. If y'all hearing too much background noise, let me know or whatever. I'll turn off the dehumidifier. So I sent it to a couple people I knew. Um, I don't typically go live. I usually have something kind of planned out or whatever, but I'm just gonna go ahead and rock out. So there was a brother that I was working with. Some parties sent me. I always get people sent from like state institutions and stuff like that about getting brothers jobs. Now I'm not a tech trainer no more. So that's in the past. I kind of passed that torch on to somebody smarter than me. But now this brother here is he has some experience as a data analyst. And it looks like he went to a university in Nigeria and stuff like that, and had some experience out there. So I basically told him, you could self-train on a lot of this stuff. You can put these things on your resume. I want to give y'all a brief little story. And some people may not like this, but I got to tell it as it is. When I worked at companies like TCS, you had a lot of these Indian techs. Some of them didn't know anything at all. A lot of them were Cisco certified and couldn't even log into a Cisco switch. So they coming to me asking me, how do I log into a Cisco switch? And I'm like, how are you a Cisco engineer? What they do is they bring a lot of these folks on H-1B visas. And a lot of them, they know what to do. They do their thing and they're good at what they do. But what they'll do is they'll bring a bunch over. And if some of them don't know much, they'll all band together and they'll teach each other, which is something that black folks should be doing in those environments a lot of times. And sometimes it don't always pan out like that. But, I noticed that when I was working with a lot of those H-1B visa folks. So he was asking me, well, could I put this on my resume? Yes, you can. There was a thing years ago where if you just do labs or you just do a little volunteer experience and you put it on your resume, that was frowned upon. They used to say, oh, you're cooking the books, you're doing this, you're doing that. It's the same kind of thing that the dominant society used to say about us as having side hustles. They had it almost as like a quasi-criminal effect. Oh, well, y'all are getting over and stuff like that. And I started going to some of these colleges and getting and listening to these cybersecurity panels. And these folks was literally doing the same thing. You started seeing commercials in the last decade where they come out talking about, oh, a side hustle. A side hustle used to be looked down upon because black folks, we the kings of side hustles. So now when I went to these panels, you literally had cybersecurity experts that were basically like, okay, whatever you learn in college, just slap it on your resume. That's experience. You see what I'm saying? That was something that I had been talking about prior to that, but it wasn't looked at as something. I remember people talking about that. That was looked at as like a bad thing. Like, oh, you don't have no real world experience. So as it's working for us, y'all got to understand, they'll start capping and using it. Once they find out it's working for us and it's something that we doing, much like the numbers game, any of that stuff, it's bad until, they could get some. Same thing with hip hop. Well, hey, that's, only doing that and that old music and this, that, and the third. And as soon as they find out it could work as leverage in their arena, it's not negative anymore. So this was done with blues. This was done with hip hop. Don't fall for none of that stuff, man. Go ahead and get your labs and get your experience and slap it on there. Because the reality is, if you do it once, you did it 1,000 times. As you keep doing it, you're just going to get better. You see what I'm saying? So recruiters used to always say, well, you haven't had it in a real world experience. Well, here's the thing. When you get into these corporate environments, the way that you use some of the technology and software is completely different than you getting in there. You're going to do what they tell you to do and use their process, and you're not going to go above the scope. You're not going to be able to open up virtual machines and do all these changes and modifications that you do on your own laptop or in AWS and Azure. They're not going to let you do that in that environment. A lot of that stuff is HIPAA compliant. They lock it down. There's regulations. There's all kinds of different regulations and rules where you're going to have to do exactly A, B, and C. And usually it's kind of like the mouse running through the through the ball or whatever. So when you look at these descriptions, That's why when the brother sent me the resume, we'll get into that in a minute. But first thing I want to do is, we're talking about, this brother was asking about military and tech experience. Should I put that on my resume? Hell yeah. Because the VA a lot of times requires that. I'm talking about Virginia. Don't limit yourself to just Minnesota. If there's a bag, bro, out in Virginia and they trying to give you 85, 100, get the hell out of here. Because there's a lot of military contracts and bases. They like to have military clearance. And I wanted to talk about, in that regard, a conversation I had with a brother, you know, in a corporate environment. And he was basically telling me about when he was in the military, he didn't know about like the Harlem Hellfighters and the Tuskegee, you know, airmen and all that kind of stuff. Now I didn't know about the Hellfighters too much until I got older and had to keep digging, but I knew about the airmen. And he was talking about in school in New York and Brooklyn, on the way through the crack era, he was talking about how they didn't have any Black history that was really being pushed out. He said he didn't have any military. I said, none of your family, none of your uncles. He said none of them were military. So they didn't really talk about it like today. You know what I'm saying? So before I go into this resume, I want to talk about one of the reasons why I had such a heavy emphasis on my second book about the Harlem Hellfighters and stuff. And so, you know, the Harlem Hellfighters and why I made, you know, my t-shirt and redesigned the emblem, and why I made some of these shirts, you know. So I'm going to go over to my website. And before we do, I always want to do this here, because this is where y'all want to go. Y'all want to go to onpointarmsllc.com. This brother has all kinds of different arsenals and different things. He's out in Colorado. He's very, 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 very professional on the way he does things. So y'all want to check out onpointarmsllc.com. And one of the reasons why I designed this emblem is to give reverence and respect to the Harlem Hellfighters. You know, I had a chapter in my second book where I was talking about a little bit of history with the Harlem Hellfighters. And, you know, they've never really been given the respect that they deserve. You know, some people had the issue with the Gadsden flag that they had. So I went ahead and I designed something with two snakes and then the black fist. Now that has the blue emblem, because I think the initial emblem was blue. But if you go, and let me look this up here. I'll use this here. And this brother was a veteran. This brother that owns this store is a veteran. So let me go to Harlem Hellfighters. Let me look at it up in Wikipedia real quick. Now, you see that this is blue. Now, it has the Gadsden flag, yeah, the "Don't Tread on Me," but that was their motto. And I'm not changing it. So I left the snake in there. You see what I'm saying? But my idea and their motto is "Don't tread on me, goddamn, let's go." Engagements of World War I. And they was also in World War II. So that's one of the reasons why I went ahead and left the blue in there. Now, there's another model. There's another design that I made as well. And that design, and we'll go to my Harlem Hellfighter store. But I made a design for, you see the gold. That was an ode to Anthony Browder and Ancient Kemet. The black and gold. That's why I did that. You see what I'm saying? And so this right here is the black nuclear family, where he's holding the shield, and he got the 4-5 right there. The black black child, he's protecting his mother as well. So you see the black man out in front. I did this intentionally. You have his wife in the back. So he's front line. But he also has his son with the shield as well. So that's the reason why I did that. So on one of the chapters of my second book, I talked about all of the, and y'all know my policy, how I feel about, you know, black folks being in. Okay, my man's in here. He says cyber attack. We could actually talk about that. I wasn't going to get into that, but we could talk about that after I do his resume review. So now, damn, I lost my train of thought. You could learn a lot of, y'all know my policy about how I feel about black folks being in the military. You know what I'm saying? I was very clear about that, you know, in my second. But however, especially what happened to Lavina. You know, they unalived that sister, put acid in her genitalia, and, you know, they were trying to deny her parents from the Freedom of Information Act, and they were trying to do all kind of stuff. You know, I talked about her too. Let me see. What was her name? Yeah, her name was Lavina Johnson. She died in 2005. She was a soldier in the U.S. Army and was found dead in a tent in Iraq. They tried to say that she shot herself with a military grade weapon. Her dad was actually in the Army as well. There's a documentary about that. Matter of fact, let me show y'all that so I could post that in the chat real quick, because y'all need to see that, and then we'll go on. Since we talking about the military, I said, but you know, so let's see here. So we of course believe that was a cover up. Absolutely. There was a documentary about this where, you know, her dad, damn, what is the name of that documentary? What is the name of that documentary? Let me see here. Hold on. Oh, here it is. Hold on. I think this is a piece of this. Self-harm. We just need the... All right, hold on. Wait a minute. I think this was a piece of the documentary, but I'm not sure. People who are responsible, we know that the people we're dealing with, they lie as easy as they breathe. So that's why we need... I had to be the nail in the coffin, and this is how suicide looks in the military. They murdered your little girl. Your 19-year-old patriotic angel, your honor student who only wanted a medal of honor. Lavina's justice lies. Let me see.
Did you see her face? Her face is all beat up. Her nose is all broke. The Army spent 10 months supposedly doing an investigation. I tried to pressure them for a copy of the evidence. And actually, it took a congressional act.
Now, see, these are the type of games they be playing with us in the military. That's why I'm kind of like, but anyway. So, but yeah, that happened to her. I talked about her as well. But now let's get into the subject at hand real quick, and then we'll talk about the cyber attack. Because the cyber attack, Minnesota couldn't handle it. I might do another live for that, but I might just go ahead and just cover that since we live, you know what I'm saying? So let's go into, oh, he just sent me the new one. So this, okay, backdrop. So somebody sent me this brother's resume. And the first thing I noticed was, you know, he's trying to get into tech support. And so now look at his resume right now. Let me see here. Here's what I'm going to do, because I don't want to put. Here's what I'm going to do. I want y'all to see it, but I don't want to put his business out there. So I'll probably add that too later. I'll ask him. I'll be like, hey, let me get you, you know. So all right, look. So he has data analysis experience. Now, the university that he looks like he went to, where is this at? I've never heard of this university. Where is it? Okay, so the university is in Nigeria. So now I'm going to tell you how corporate America, a lot of times, when they see recent experience, and it looks like his most recent experience, well, it looks like he was doing UX design, which is good. He has that as his first recent experience. So people thinking, well, you just came from Nigeria, so you don't have any real world US corporate experience. So you want to put that towards the bottom. Put your most recent experience working here at the top. That's the first thing you want to do with your resume. Now he's asking about active duty. Okay, combat training in Missouri, chemical biological warfare at the nuclear school. You need to expound upon that, brother, a little bit, because they like to hear that. When white corporations see that, they are like, oh, he's a patriot. Oh, he's one of these. He's a red-blooded American. You know, that's how they think. When they see Army vet, they like that. They like to see that. Because, see, here's another thing y'all got to understand. You could get clearance. See, I've never been in the military, but you could get certain clearances. So I want to ask you, do you have clearance? I'm not sure if you're watching live. Do you have clearance? If you have clearance, that's good, because you could probably get some kind of another thing too. Check your GI Bill and see if they're still offering certifications. Say, hey, I fought for this damn country. Yeah, say I fought for this damn country. You are a patriot, sir. You fought. You went into the Army. So you should be able to get the same benefits that anybody else gets. You should see if they got some cybersecurity certifications that they'll pay for. See if you could still use your GI Bill and stuff like that. You use that shit, bro. Absolutely. So you need to expound upon, if you went to the Army and you served, you need to expound upon that in your resume. Like, hey, wait a minute, I'm a vet. You're supposed to be in a protected class because you are a U.S. veteran. You served. So it looks like he did some volunteer experience. That looks recent. So the resume is kind of every which way. Your education out in Nigeria from 2018 to 2022. Okay. So yeah, you leave that. Skills. You only got 3 things for skills. So this is what I told him. I said, what stuff have you used? And I used Brother Chat. Now this I could show. This is what I did. I said, all this stuff that you told me you could do, this is how your resume needs to look. All this stuff you use, Power BI, Figma design tools. You know, if you're familiar with any of this stuff, you need to put that on your resume and go in the lab and work on it. I don't care how long you've done it. You've done it. Because see, this is what we're trying to get you right here. We want to get you in an entry level. It sounds like you need to be an entry level desktop or help desk. And all you need to do is be in there 6 months. Now, you don't have any certifications that I know of, but we could work on those. But you need to contact the military and ask them folks, hey, man, you know, what y'all got? They spending millions of dollars for $1 million nuclear missiles and this, that, and the third and all this here. What y'all got? Let me get $1,000 for training. And ask them. You make a request. You get in the question mode here. Don't make a bunch of statements. Just ask some questions. And say, hey, you know, I served. Is there any money left? Or is there any kind of, you know, because that's one thing, you know, with the military, you're going to be able to, you know, maybe you weren't thinking about that because I'm not seeing any software or I'm not seeing a lot of software that you used in the military. So maybe you weren't much interested in IT, or maybe you focused on data analyst. Well, Let's take a look and see how much a data analyst makes. I don't know how much you're making right now, but I did some data analyst work. So let me go in here and let's just kind of do a little forecast here. All right, now this is remote. This is remote. Now they want you to have 3 years of PDM right here. Now y'all be thinking that I'm just some super recruiter extraordinaire where I got all the jobs and stuff like that. That's not true. People send me stuff all the time. People send me stuff all the time, and my resume is in all kinds of different databases. So jobs that I don't want, I just send them to y'all. I did not reinvent the wheel. I just never turned off the spigot. So another thing too, let me get this off screen. Another thing too, they be messing with our names. They be messing with our names. Sometimes when they see a black or an African name, they be discriminating. If we fix your resume and get it together and you still ain't getting no hits, let's change the name and see what happens. Let's change the name and see what happens. Let's just make it a little different and make it look like a nickname. We still keep your name, but let's make it look like a nickname and see. That's how we know either AI or either the HR got a bunch of race soldiers at those companies because they don't want to give you no chance. There's been studies on that. I covered that, a whole chapter of that in my second book as well, on how a lot of these HR folks, when they think it's a Black American name, or if they think sometimes it may be an African name or, a name that might be quote unquote non-American, they'll be like, okay, well, they'll try to pass it by. That sometimes they do that. I personally done that with several of my homies. About 5 or 10 of them, they had that same issue. And then now, here's the thing. Now, once they see you, you still got to sell yourself on the interview, but they might be a little surprised. Like my name, they don't know what to think. When they see my name, they just think I'm a Brad because my name is common. So when I show up, sometimes they be like, and they can't say, well, I didn't know it was going to be you. That they can't say that. They're not going to say that. Now, the surprise in their face, sometimes that will show. So I know as soon as I walk into the interview and they be like, man, well, I didn't know this was a Negro. Like they can't say that. They know they're not going to say anything like that. They will never say anything like that. Sometimes they'll try to cook the interview, but if you got the skill set and you could talk your talk, sometimes they'll just go ahead and just let you in there. But sometimes that does happen. But we'll keep the name right now. But if they keep playing with your name, or once you get this experience, see, once I show this piece, once you get your resume, because he says he's working on it right now. Let's take a look. Oh, he's done. All right. So is that where he's at? Okay, hold on. Look, we're going to do this live. So what I'm going to do, brother, if you listening right now, I'm going to open it up. I'm going to let people see it. It ain't going to hurt nobody. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to change. I'm going to take your name and all that off there so people won't know. They won't know it's you. And nobody knows who he is anyway, but they won't know it's you, bro. I'm gonna take your name completely off. I'm gonna take all your personal information off so people can see a regular little resume. So because I want people to see this. Okay, so now, all right, bam. So nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows who you are. You're just a resume. So let me make sure we ain't got your personal info on there or whatnot. Okay. All right. So look. So that looks better. You see what I did? I use this for Brother Chat. I ain't reinventing no damn will. That looks better. So right now you look like a desktop support person. Now, if you've used some of this stuff, especially Power BI and all that, now, are you currently working at that place in St. Paul? If you worked at Best Buy, absolutely. Now, what I'll tell you about if you were at Best Buy, I'm assuming now if you were junior help desk, cool. They're not going to be able to tell you what you haven't used. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you were with Geek Squad, they don't use Power BI. So if you were with Geek Squad or something, take that off. But if this is you, bro, if this is close to what you've been using or whatever, man, let's just rock out with it. And then we could add the data analyst stuff later. Yeah, you good. You good, bro. Yeah, you don't need to do anything. Let me check my stuff because somebody's sending me something. Uh-oh. Well, yeah, Big Pokey or Big Smokey or whatever. I don't know. Not looking good for him. Dude from Friday or whatever. I don't know. Not looking good. So, yeah, I think, okay, let me look at his portfolio. He has a portfolio here. That's a good thing too. And I might have one of my guys on here one of these days so he could kind of break down how to use Cursor and all that kind of stuff. But it's good to actually have a real world portfolio of work you actually did. So this is some of the stuff that, we can't find that page. You got to check. That's another thing. See, we doing a paperwork check, brother. Your paperwork ain't coming back right. Is this your? It said, "Oops, we can't find your page on Behance." Is this all yours? What is this? I'm seeing Alex Apiros and all these other people. Where's your? Unless I'm putting it in wrong, brother. I'm not seeing your portfolio, so we got to get the paperwork together. Your paperwork ain't coming back right. So you got to get your paperwork together if this balance.behance.net is not working. That way, when employers go and see your work, because here's what I visualize for you. You say that you're doing UX design. I haven't talked to you yet, but email me after you watch this video. If you're trying to stay in UX design, we might be able to just find you some remote stuff like for that. I want to keep you remote as long as you can so you could double it up. We'll talk about that offline. But now, if you want to get into tech, like it sounds like you do, then we need to market this resume more towards even if it means just getting you back into the, because if you're really junior help desk, if you're doing junior help desk stuff like that, then that's 6 months part of the battle. So that 365 stuff, all of that, man, you download that, man, and you just work at it for the next couple of weeks and get back on the phone with the military and see, hey, is there any training or whatever, any certifications? I'm going to point you to the following ones: AWS, Azure, 365 is cool. With you being in a UX design, okay, you're saying you'll join as soon as you can. Oh, he's driving. All right. Okay, he's driving. Okay, so we might stay on a little bit longer for this brother because he said he's driving. So he might be able to jump on after a while. So I think what I'm gonna do in the meantime, we're gonna cover a little bit. I wanted to do this different. I know I wanted to do it different. I wanted to have, because the audio only comes in one ear. But since we're waiting on our brother to join, because he could join live and ask questions, I'm going to go ahead and cover a little bit of this cyber attack. I'm going to cover a little bit about this cyber attack. All right. Now, this is new, but we're going to go back into it a little bit more. But this part, I didn't see this one yet. So let's go into this. Now, I kind of gave my backstory a little bit about Minnesota. And here's the thing. They had problems before with integration at the state of Minnesota. This is something that I know. They had issues with some old systems. They didn't want to upgrade. A lot of times, for my listeners outside of the state of Minnesota, Minnesota's cheap. Minnesota don't want to spend no damn money. They got that old money. I call it that old Dred Scott money. They got plenty of money, but they don't want to spend it. So if they don't have to fix it, they figure like, well, I ain't gonna fix it. They should have upgraded, and they should have put a little bit more in their infrastructure in terms of their state systems. You see what I'm saying? Most people think, well, government systems are the most secure. That's not true. They had problems with the Pentagon not too long ago. But let's go ahead and look into this. And there's a couple other articles I want to go through until the brother joins. If he's not able to join within the next half hour or so, I'll probably just go on to the next story. It might be a live story, maybe not. But I'll probably just go on to the next story after that.
Governors frequently deploy national.
All right, let's see if we could turn this up a little bit here.
Guard troops to help during natural disasters or to maintain order during other emergencies.
But a rare move, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has ordered the National Guard to help the city of St. Paul recover from a days-long cyber attack.
We get the details from Jonah Kaplan of CBS News Minnesota.
These images.
Before y'all know, now y'all looking at the National Guard. When they say National Guard, the average person might think everybody's going to show up like the LA riots. No, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see a bunch of dudes with a bunch of cybersecurity experience. These are people that know what they're doing. They had to hire outside forces. What I mean by that is there's third-party cybersecurity firms that the state of Minnesota had to pay for. It was beyond their talent. Now, I want you to think about something. Remember when I told you where Minnesota lost the Amazon bid? They look at stuff like this. Yes, they do. They absolutely look at things like this. They were looking at the talent. They look at public articles. Because Minnesota had another IT issue some years back. So Amazon absolutely looks at that bid. Okay, how strong is your infrastructure? What is your talent pool? What is your infrastructure? What is your quality of life for people that we try to get to move to Minnesota for these jobs? Do they want to be here? So they look at all avenues of that. And companies that might want to move here, they look at these things too. They're not blind to the fact. Because any company, the first thing that they're going to look at is the technology base. They're going to do a whole entire sweep of what is the technology footprint of this city and this town and how the government handles stuff, because that's important.
Of the Minnesota National Guard Cyber Protection Unit show soldiers fighting a new front in an ever-expanding online battlefield. Lieutenant Colonel Brian Morgan is the Guard's Director of Cyber Coordination.
We're used to seeing you, right, in our communities doing these physical things. This is an entirely new mission, it seems like.
Yeah, it's a mission that's new to the public, but we've been preparing for this day for years.
Minnesota is one of only 4 states
you
with a
heard what he
fully
said.
staffed.
He said, we've been preparing for this for years. Now, that kind of speaks to the conversation that I was having with the brother earlier this week, where he was talking about when he was with the military. And he was telling me that when you're in the military, you're training for war all the time. That's going to require discipline, and that's going to require structure. So he was talking about on how, you know, back in the day, if you got out of line in the military, when he was in it, they could just beat your ass, make you do all kinds of thousands of push-ups and all kind of stuff like that. When I was working at a company some years back, there was a dude that came from the Marines. He was like a top engineer, and he was like, man, the military went soft. Now, he didn't expound on why, but I knew exactly what he meant. But, he said the military went soft, and he was around, my age or maybe a little older. He wasn't, maybe he could have been a little younger. But he had, he was a very ambitious dude, there's some folks, man, that the military has helped where if they wouldn't have win, they would have just been in some bad shape. They needed that structure and discipline. I wouldn't go, but if I were to go, or if a black person asked me, hey, man, I'm going no matter what, I'd say the Navy or the Air Force. Those are the two things that, because I'm a technology thought person. I'm like, okay, the Navy or, the Air Force. That's what I would say. If I couldn't tell them otherwise, I would think of those two things there, so. But this is what you're looking at. You're looking at somebody that you see they working hard. So these dudes know what they're doing.
Is one of only 4 states with a fully staffed cyber protection team.
Listen to this one more time.
Is one of only 4 states cyber coordination.
We're used to seeing you, right, in our communities doing these physical things. This is an entirely new mission, it seems like.
Yeah, it's a mission that's new to the public, but we've been preparing for this day for years.
Minnesota is one of only 4 states with a fully staffed cyber protection team.
Did you hear that? This speaks to my homie Solomon I was talking to. He said, why does Minnesota have states for, teams, stadiums? Why does Minnesota have stadiums for damn near every team? This is a statement of commerce when you hear that. I'm going to play this one more time. This means there's money.
But we've been preparing for this day for years.
Minnesota is one of only 4 states with a fully staffed cyber protection team. They've deployed for national defense missions, but this is the first time they've been activated for a state mission.
In the world we live in, you don't need, bullets to fly out of rifles to be effective.
The unit, along with the FBI, is defending the city of St. Paul from hackers who on Friday accessed city systems, causing officials to shut down internet access.
So look, y'all, they're not doing just little 4 to 5, 6 hour shifts. This is going to be a 24/7 operation for a while.
All city services and programs. Police, fire, and EMS remain operational, but everything from public works to public libraries are limited in what they can offer.
How'd that happen? Where did they go? What have they done? And then we're assisting with, reducing the risk and closing those holes and making sure that doesn't happen again.
Melvin Carter is the mayor of St. Paul.
While these disruptions are difficult, they are necessary steps to limit exposure, preserve system integrity, and protect sensitive information as our investigation and recovery efforts continue.
Since the beginning of the year, dozens of municipalities across the country have come under cyber attacks, according to Con Briefing, an information security research firm.
This is the world we live in now. There's no going back. There's no putting the genie back in the bottle.
They look like they had a little conversation with the mayor. Yeah, they look like they sat him down and said something to him.
Tonight, the investigation is ongoing, and so is the battle against the hackers, according to officials. In fact, we wanted to get inside the emergency operations.
Yeah, they look like they had a conversation with the mayor. They look like they had a long talk. Because the first press conference, they were asking questions and he kept talking about what he believes. So they was putting him under fire probably. You know, people gonna get on your head. Whether he had something, I mean, he didn't have nothing to do with it, of course. But let me see here. Now, if you notice what happened during here, and people from outside Minnesota won't know, but there was a storm around that same time. There was a storm around that same time. So, tinfoil hats, but you know, I found that to be very interesting. But I'm trying to find. There was a okay, so I'm trying to find. There was a long press conference. Is this the one? I think this is the one right here. Yeah, this is the one I want to go through, but the audio was a little. Okay, so this is a day ago. This is a day ago. Hold on. Now look at this. I want to show this little guy. I want to show this little guy right here because I just happen to see that this is 7 years ago. So I'm just telling you, I'm telling you these cybersecurity dudes be on top of it. And I'm going to play this article in a minute, but check this out.
And he's only 12 years old. Ruben Paul is a sixth grader from Austin. He hacks household items to demonstrate how they can be exploited to spy on or even harm people.
Now, what he's doing, y'all, he wouldn't be considered to be what they call a black hat. A black hat is somebody that does, you know, they with the flim flam. They doing it, you know, to be bogus. Classes 7 days a week. I wonder what kind of classes. So the Black Hats, there's a movie called Black Hat. Y'all might want to, the guy that played Thor was in it. It was a pretty good movie. Excellent movie, actually. The Black Hats, they're hacking into systems. What happened to St. Paul's systems? That was probably a black hat person. They're trying to find out who did what.
David Begnaud recently met the self-proclaimed cyber ninja.
So he will be called a white hat. He's going to do well. This little 12-year-old, he's going to do great. But now he's already started to do this stuff. So he's going to, if he gets into IT, man, he's at a young age right now. He might be able to have his CISSP by the time he's before 16. But I think you got to be a certain age. I'm not sure, but.
Showed him how smart toys can be turned into listening devices.
Hi, everybody.
Ruben Paul is 12 years old, and he's helping to lead the conversation on cybersecurity.
It's pretty dangerous.
Presenting in the Netherlands.
We shoot the drone.
Advising a tech conference in Singapore.
That was an amazing presentation.
And wowing a crowd full of executives in Texas.
It is important that we need to reinvent cybersecurity because obviously what we have invented so far is clearly not working.
This cyber ninja, as he calls himself, has a second.
Black folks, your trips to the islands in Jamaica and Vegas might have to get put on hold. You need to invest in your kids for this. We might have to put the Jordans away and some of the club stuff and, you know, hanging out and kicking it. And this right here, I'm playing this for a reason. I'm playing this for a reason.
Degree black belt in Kung Fu, and he's on a mission to show how hacking is child's play.
If a 12-year-old can do it, what makes it that somebody is a skilled actual cyber terrorist, what makes it that they can't do it? This Bluetooth
You hear that?
cyber terrorist, what makes it that they can't
Fu, and he's on a mission to show how hacking is child's play.
do it? If a 12-year-old can do it, what makes it that somebody who is a skilled actual cyber terrorist, what makes it that if a 12-year-old can do it?
That picture right there. You see that? TikTok, and as consumers, I'm just saying this, y'all. TikTok and as consumers and just being consumers as Black Americans, I want y'all to take a moment of silence and watch what I'm showing you here. Look at on that screen. What do you see on his laptop? You see code. Folks talking about being on code. This is literally on code. Code of conduct. Look at that drone. Up in the upper right-hand corner, what do you see? You see R2-D2 and you see a Rubik's Cube. Off to the left, you see books. This is what your children's room needs to look like. Books, gadgets, and tools. There should be a globe, maybe some tools for a machine shop, some electrical tools, maybe some HVAC tools. I'm making a point here.
What makes it that somebody who is a skilled actual cyber terrorist, what makes it that they can't do it? This Bluetooth is going into new autonomous cars, autonomous drones. It's going into medical devices.
Paul says that the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connections that we use almost every day are extremely vulnerable to hacking.
I'll never connect to a
Now that's true about Bluetooth, so that's something to think about. Now, as you can see, he's using a Linux distribution. Any of my listeners right now need to get a virtual machine, and you need to get Kali Linux. That's something you might want to consider. But he's using a Linux distribution. How I know, as you can see, you see Ethernet here, you see iNet there. This is not IP config. This is IF config in Linux. I believe that's the command.
public Wi-Fi that I don't know.
Really?
Somebody can just hack into that Wi-Fi network and poison it.
He showed me firsthand how a hacker's poison can spread from a Wi-Fi signal.
I successfully know your password.
How you know my password?
And have hacked you. Your login was david.com.
Yep. Let's bleep that out. Wow. So call me gullible. You got me.
It took seconds. He had my Twitter username and password using a fake page that he'd cloned after I connected to his public Wi-Fi network.
It's that easy.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, if I was sitting at a Starbucks,
Mm-hmm.
I went to sign into Twitter,
Yes.
I put it in,
Mm-hmm.
they got it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, staying in touch is easy and fun.
Paul also hacked CloudPet's teddy bear. It uses Bluetooth technology, allowing traveling parents to send messages back to their kids.
What did you do that
Fair
turns
use,
that
YouTube.
into a
Fair
threat?
use.
Without any notification or any knowledge of the user, I could turn it on from my computer, which only has to be in a 30-foot radius of the bear. So I could stand outside somebody's house.
He turned the bear into a secret recording device.
How did you get this name, Cyber Ninja? Who's the smartest one in the family?
The Paul family of four is hopeful about the future of cybersecurity. Ruben's parents, Mano and Sangeeta, both work in technology. And his 6-year-old brother, Itai, is even joining him on stage now.
Can you show us this? Sure, I typed in another ask.
When they shine at it and are liking what they do, it gives you a feeling of contentment.
With Ruben speaking at these conferences and being paid thousands of dollars to travel there and sometimes a speaker's fee, Do you worry that it gets a little out of control for a 12-year-old?
First and foremost, the kids do it because they have a passion for it, right? It should never become a job for them. So
he's letting them know right off top, hey, he over here trying to get the bag. I got some ambitious kids. They not gonna be sitting around on TikTok all day. They gonna be making it. And my man over here up there asking questions about whether it's gonna be, I guess he's doing his journalist thing. Colin O'Brien looking ass anyway.
if tomorrow they come back and they say, not interested in doing this, it's perfectly fine with my wife and I.
Yeah.
Ruben says in the future he wants to work for the NSA or the FBI, protecting the country against foreign and domestic cyber threats.
Has anyone called you? I feel like they should be recruiting you now.
I've had some offers from the government of the Netherlands and even the Department of Defense.
Did you tell them what? I got to graduate first?
Yeah, I want to get done with 6th grade first before I start thinking about jobs.
This little dude getting offers already from the Department of Homeland Security or the Department of Defense. Because what they're looking for is leadership, and he has it. I never seen this video before. I think it was very inspiring. It makes me feel like I'm slacking. Man. Yeah, that's what we need. We need little cybersecurity boot camps. The hell with this rap music shit. Yeah, y'all could buy that and do that on your own. If you ain't going somewhere to get classically trained, I'm just gonna say it. The hell with this rap shit. Fuck it. The hell with it. That's the way. That right there. Something like that. That and trades. Trades. Carpentry, HVAC, electrician, telecom, and that. All this other stuff. I'm at a point right now where I'm leaning towards music. I looked at it like a liberal arts degree. Because when things go all to hell, hey, don't nobody give a damn about no music. You're not thinking about music when power grids and things and stuff like that is shutting down. I hate to say that, but the thing is after seeing that, I'm not recommending so chase your dreams so you could fuck that. Something meaningful. Tell these kids to do something meaningful. They could do the music thing on the side. And if that works, that works. But this is the kind of stuff that our kids need to be doing. They need to be in cybersecurity. They need to be developing things. They need to be fixing things. They need to be in trades. That's what they need to be doing. And this is coming from a tech. Oh, he's at work. Okay. This is coming from a technology-centric person. Trades, cybersecurity. That's what should be the boot camps. None of that liberal arts crap. None of that. Nothing about how I feel. The hell with psychology and all that kind of stuff. Stuff that you could physically do. That's what our kids need to be doing in these next few years. That's my thought. Seriously. So I don't know if the brother got on yet. Let me see. Let me look at his resume. No, this is old. I'm working with several different people. I was working with one guy. Let's look at this conference real quick in a minute. That I just happened to see that. But now let's go back into the conference. Let's look at it. That was streamed a day ago, but I want to go back into this first one. I'm trying to find out some stuff. Hold on, y'all. All right. Before we go to the next thing. So let's go into the conference 3 days ago. What? The hell was this? I don't know. I don't even know these damn texts. I might start going live with y'all, but I like to do the pre-recorded thing. Okay, now, here's what I wanted to go through. I was going to go through this. Here's what I was going to go through. And by the way, in terms of before I do
information security officer staff.
Before I do that, I had a friend that was asking me, somebody was asking me like, well, with this power outage, he kept asking about these cyber attacks. And y'all got to keep in mind, most of the people I grew up with and the people I know and people I come in contact with, you know, friends, families, and, you know, people that might check the channel or whatever. A lot of them don't come from tech backgrounds. And, or, you know, they don't, you know what I'm saying? They don't really, when stuff like this happens, they probably just think somebody's sitting over somewhere in Russia, and they don't, you know, they may not kind of think about. The only reason why I have some background in it, because I've always been doing tech, but then I took some college classes, and some of the tools that we use was like ProDiscover. And I mean, most of it is Linux based. And I think on one of the channels, I talked about chain of custody and things like that. So go Google forensic chain of custody. I'm going to make y'all do a little work. Go check that out. Now, when this outage was out, a lot of the grids went down in St. Paul and in Minneapolis because of the storm. Now, this attack happened within very close proximity, which was very suspicious, but we know that power was out. And so that video that I made about outages is, you know, he was asking, well, why would you need all this and this and that? I said, well, when a power grid goes down, and look at what just happened here, where there was some issue. I heard there was an issue with some 911 calls. I want to check on that again. But let's just say that the 911 calls, dispatchers, there's nothing. It goes black. What do? You can't rely on the police. Now, I was still hearing ambulances, bits and pieces. They still got to come. And that storm was bad. But you can't rely on police. You can't rely on nobody. So if you don't have food supply, if you don't have jackery, you don't have ammo, cash, these different things or whatever like that, I'm telling y'all, no one is coming to save you. It might get to a point where there might be some grids or some things that go down, and you're not going to have the support you need because you didn't prepare. And people may not open their doors, as they should not. And you might think that's mean. But because you didn't want to prepare, because you might have thought it might have been some conspiracy this or conspiracy that, and it ain't going to happen, and then you're shit without a luck, you're the one that's going to suffer, not everyone else that have been doing some kind of preparation, such as food, ammo, water supply, all of these different kind of things. And you're thinking that that can't happen because it doesn't happen that often. So in your mind, you might be like, well, it's not going to happen. So I don't have anything to worry about. I could always call somebody. You see what I'm saying? And that's not always the case. You see? So those were things where I was thinking about when the outage was down. Now, some people in the neighborhood, they had generators, so they weren't worried about it. They prepared. They had a Generac. At one point, I thought about getting one of those until I decided I want to move and whatnot. But I said, well, you know, I'm going to get me a Generac because I don't want to be sitting up there talking about, well, I ain't got no power and this, that, and the third. I want to get me a Generac. So I started looking at other options. You know, Jackery, they make a lot of good stuff. Now, long term, it's not going to power your house unless you got all of those extra additional, components. So it's better to be prepared, and it's also better to be in contact with people that are prepared as well. You see what I'm saying? It's nothing worse than being around some other folks that ain't prepared, because they don't really share your same mindset about anything. You see what I'm saying? So they ain't gonna be no damn help if things all go to hell. See, that's the ultimate question. If things all go to hell, who can you rely upon? You're gonna want to rely on yourself. But if you are in contact, let's say you have something like a rapid radio or a walkie or whatever, let's say that you have a network of people that you can rely upon, and they can rely upon you the same way. You don't really have a lot of room for empty cup Negroes. This person's showing up with an empty cup, and they don't have any, they're not able to provide any resources. Well, they're worthless. Because philosophy, psychology, liberal arts, all of that don't mean nothing during those times. It's absolutely worthless. Philosophy, psychology, emotions, feelings, opinions don't mean a damn thing when that kind of stuff is going on. Have you ever noticed that? When that goes on, nobody's really talking about their emotions and their feelings. That's not really going to work. You just might be scared, and that's about it. But it ain't going to change whether or not you're going to have resources and be able to get this big ass tree out the house. Well, you know what happens then? The men come out in the survival instinct. Survival instinct comes in. That's when physical resources and physical grit, and that's where that's that primal energy comes in. Hey man, it's a 50-foot tree. Well, hell, there's a 50-foot anaconda out there. What we gonna do about that? Well, my liberal arts degree, and that ain't gonna cut it. It's not gonna cut it. So but anyway, let me get into this conference real quick. I want to go through that, and then I'll probably go to the next story or whatever. Or actually, you know what? I'm going to make y'all wait. I'm not going to do that live. I'm going to do the conference, and I'm going to kind of break down. This is before the military was really in, before they showed that. This is a couple days ago. And then we'll get into that. So I'm going to, upload this to the live, and then there might be a couple more stories that I might upload as well.